Hey friends, welcome back to the Guitar Max channel. So I just watched a really great video about the AIO Gold Top Les Paul style guitar by a guy named Lester Mitchell over on his channel. He's actually one of the guys who entered my shredder competition several years ago, and he's been putting out some great guitar review videos lately. Definitely check out his channel, and I'll put a link for that down in the video description below. But the thing that really stood out to me in that video was his reaction to playing that guitar. He called it the, quote, best budget guitar he's ever played. And I've played that guitar, or at least that same model, and it doesn't surprise me that he loved it so much. The AIO guitars punch way above their weight, if you know what I mean. Now, I have been talking about AIO and the older Wolf guitars for many years, but you can just go read the reviews that AIO has been getting lately, and you see stuff like this. This guy says, "This is the Les Paul killer. Plays great, looks awesome, planning on buying a backup too." Or this, "I'm on my third AIO guitar, so they must be pretty good. Been touring with them for about a year now and get all kinds of compliments on my tone." Now, there are still a lot of people out there that have not played these guitars because as popular as they have been becoming, they're still not as big as a brand like Epiphone, which I think is really kind of the go-to budget brand if you're looking for a Gibson style guitar. So, how do these guitars stack up against the Epiphone models? Well, I actually wouldn't even compare the AIO stuff to the Epiphone guitars. I would compare them to the actual Gibson models. Epiphone can't even touch these guitars when it comes to the playability and just the overall value. So the guitar I have today is one of AIO's semi-hollow body models, and there's an Epiphone guitar out there which is very, very similar to this one at first glance. Now, AIO is calling this one the KSA 50. This is in wine red, and this is a sub $500 guitar. I think this is like $469, right around there. And there are a ton of little details on this guitar that Epiphone just doesn't have. Like, instead of a single ply binding, you've got a multi-ply binding on the front and on the back. And of course, this is like a they're calling it wine red, but it's really like a flame top guitar. And again, it also has the flame on the back. These are set neck guitars, of course. You've got the multiply binding on the body, but then you even have it up here on the headstock, and they've actually redesigned the shape of the headstock recently. Also, you've got some name brand hardware. You've got Grover tuners. The Epiphone just has generic, no name brand, Epiphone tuners basically. And this has an ebony fretboard. The Epiphone has like Indian laurel, not even rosewood. So Epiphone's most basic version of this body style, like the 338, costs around the same. It's like $500 or a little bit under $500, but that is like the super basic stripped down version. And it's true, Epiphone does make some higher end, like this guitar, but kind of upgraded. But when you get that guitar, you're getting into the $700 to $800 range. And then let's talk about the setup on these guitars. One of the things that AIO is really famous for, and it's not just me, but you'll see this in so many of the different reviews that people have left for them. The company is really known for this super detailed setup and really, really nice fretwork, adjustments to the nut and so forth, dead-on intonation. And when you order one of these guitars, you can make requests like, how high you want the action, all of that stuff, and they will adjust it specifically to your specs. So if you bought an off-the-shelf Epiphone and an Epiphone that had the multiply binding and maybe even an ebony fretboard, although I don't even know if they make one with an ebony fretboard, but let's say you could get that, you're looking at like $799, $750, maybe $700, right around there to get an equivalent Epiphone in terms of specs, and then you're spending an extra $200 to $300 on a really, really nice setup with fret leveling and crowning and all this stuff, you're looking at $1,000, in that ballpark, just to get a guitar that's as good as this one. So like I said, if you're comparing these guitars to the Epiphone models and you're looking to compare them at the same price point, there's no competition. Okay, now let me go through some sound samples with this guitar. I think it really excels in the sort of medium gain territory and some of the cleaner stuff, but we'll go through a variety of different sounds. Now, of course, guys, real quick, if you enjoy videos like this, checking out cool new affordable guitars, and you have not already subscribed for some reason, please consider subscribing right now. Okay, let's go ahead and plug this in and listen to how it sounds. Okay guys, now first let's talk about the playability, and then there's some other details that I want to go over with this guitar. So I'm going to give you a close-up of the frets on this guitar. And like I mentioned earlier, they do a lot of fretwork on these guitars, you know, really, really nicely finished frets. And these guitars, they do not have these rounded ball-end frets that everybody is talking about, but they have been doing so much work on these frets that the finish quality is rapidly approaching that sort of rounded ball-end look. But this is still done by hand on this guitar. They've also done a few other things that are kind of unique to these models, but like the pots inside here. They used to use mini pots in these guitars, and they've upgraded to full-size pots. And I was talking to Jin, the owner, about this, and he says that actually the full-size pots have a different response to them. So like, as an example, on the volume knob, when you roll up the volume knob, it's a very even sort of taper or an even ramp. And that's compared to the mini pots, which for whatever reason, you'd move it a little bit and would increase the volume a lot. So this is a much smoother and I guess more of a predictable response from the knobs. Now, another thing that I did not mention earlier, which is actually a difference between this and the Epiphone models, is I believe the Epiphone models, the neck and the center block is maple. On this guitar, it's mahogany, both the interior of the guitar and the neck, and of course it's a set neck. This is mahogany. Aside from the fret ends, everything is leveled really nicely. I mean, very, very low action on this guitar, and there's no, no dead frets. You can play every fret, and there's no buzzing or dead frets on here. But honestly, at this point, that's what I expect from AIO. I mean, that's a big reason why people are choosing these guitars, is the amount of detail and personal attention that goes into the setup of these guitars. The other thing that's cool about this is, it has a nice, fairly loud acoustic sound. I mean, it's a semi-hollow body electric guitar, right? But it's still fairly loud acoustically. And the pickups on here, like I said earlier, this guitar really excels at that sort of bluesy, jazzy, kind of medium gain stuff. But even with these pickups and the semi-hollow body, the sound is still surprisingly tight when you go to a high gain setting on the amplifier. Sometimes, guitars of this style will lose a lot of the note clarity and a lot of the articulation and the ability to hear the individual notes. This guitar, although it still has this kind of raw, organic sound to it, it's not like a super tight, I don't know, like a headless, super modern guitar or something. It still retains that note clarity. So if you wanted to, you could definitely, you could use a guitar like this for just about any style that you want to. Also, the other thing with the tone that I should mention is for the demo, I was using my Boss, actually it's not mine, I borrowed it from Dovidas, the Boss IR2 pedal. It's really cool. It's like $150, $200, and it's an amp and cabinet simulator, and it sounds incredible, especially for how small it is. And that's another thing, guys, something people mistakenly criticize me for is sometimes people think I'm playing a budget guitar, I'm playing a $500 guitar through like a $3,000 amplifier setup or some really complicated studio setup or something. That's not the case at all. I like to use affordable amps and affordable recording gear when I'm reviewing an affordable guitar like this one. So I'll have links for all that stuff and everything that I was talking about in the video down in the video description below. The guitar, the Boss IR2 pedal, and I'm also going to put a link down there for Lester's video on the SE77, which is like that Les Paul style gold top guitar, which is great as well. I played one of those, I want to say 2 or 3 years ago, and I think I was just as impressed with it as he was. Okay guys, let me know what you think about all of this stuff down in the comment section below. And I don't want it to seem like I'm totally bad-mouthing Epiphone here. They've done a lot in the past few years to upgrade their guitars. They are making better guitars. And it's not that those are bad guitars, it's just that they're not nearly as good as this guitar. Okay guys, thanks a ton for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll talk to you soon.